And one more second. Okay, everybody, welcome to our February 9th chapter leaders and advisors session. Today, we're going to talk about leaving a legacy for the next chapter leaders team, and something that's really important. I know most of you here have just finished, major projects and hallmarks and the 5-star chapter development plan, and you're probably looking at the horizon at pending graduations and more inductions coming up, and the next leadership team is also on the horizon. And we wanted to spend this session in talking about the importance of you as a chapter leader, whether an officer or a member, an advisor, to share some best practices with the next team so that they can start off with feeling confident about their role as a chapter leader, and accessing everything that Phi Theta Kappa offers. So I'm going to share my screen. Hold on one second. And wait, I'm going to redo that again. Okay, now I should always remember that I got to do it that way, but I don't. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Patty Van Etter, and I'm one of the chapter outreach and development coordinators for Phi Theta Kappa. I welcome all of you to the session, and we hope that you have questions for us, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Also, if anybody, we will also, I want to tell you now, we are recording it, so we will send both the recording and the PowerPoint after the session sometime later this week. So thanks for coming. I know everybody's been busy. We are so glad that you're here. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Hey, Patty. Right now, we can only see your desktop. You had it was switched the right time, the first time.
I don't know why it's doing that again. Hold on, we'll try it again.
But we are
Patty,
excited
we can
to
see
have
you
you
good.
all here.
Patty,
yeah,
we can see you good. I can see her really good.
All right,
we can see Patty really good.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am. Now we can.
Okay, I don't know why that. Wait, I want to try. I got to look at something real. Wait, I want to make sure something because I don't. Yeah. Screen 2.
But we are super excited to see all of your bright and smiling faces today. So thanks for hanging out with us again. A little housekeeping. So if you can, in the chat, enter your name and your chapter. That would be great. Just want to shout out to everyone. And then if you have questions, we're going to hold those until the end, but we're asking you to put those into the chat also. And then at the end, we'll answer all questions that you have. And then please put your microphone on mute. Like for me, if you've been to these sessions, you'll hear my dog. So I'm going to be on mute when I'm not talking so you don't hear King and his 2 cents of barking or something. So enter your name on chapter or your name and chapter in the chat. Hold questions to the end, but you can definitely put those in the chat and then mute your microphones. All right, and then for our lovely student engagement team, we are working hard behind the scenes, but we have the queen of everything PTK, Susan Edwards, with us. We have Reagan Chastain, who is our curriculum designer and works on the PTK edges and is helping you all behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. We have Jennifer Stanford, who is not with us on, I don't think she's on here with us today, but she's the Associate VP of Program Implementation. So she's really busy with IO candidates right now and hallmarks. Of course, myself, Ryan Martin, and Patty Van Adder, we're here as your chapter outreach and development coordinators. And then we also have Jason Quick, who does everything for you all regarding regional websites and working with you when you have regional events. And then Dr. Blake Ellis, who is our Chief Engagement Officer. So thank you for being here. And we're going to start out with today's session is called Leaving a Leadership Legacy. So kind of, if we break that down, you have the why, you have the how, and then some best practices. So with that, we're going to start with, what is your why? And why do you have a why? I know there's a lot of whys in that, but starting with your why. So kind of what your purpose is. Why are you doing this? And showing, while you're leaving that leadership legacy, showing the new officers that are coming in why they're going to do it. And then the how. Sharing resources, that is so important. So if you have a how-to manual, sharing the activity guide for chapter leaders, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Sharing the knowledge and experiences, not just Phi Theta Kappa, but on the campus, how to navigate things. So that's kind of, how you're going to leave that leadership legacy. You're going to leave that either, physical notebook binder, or you can make it digital. But you're going to leave that for them. It's kind of like a map on how to navigate Phi Theta Kappa locally, regionally, and internationally. And then we're going to talk about some best practices. So leading by example. With the, for leading by example, it's really, I can show you better than I can tell you. So when you're showing them, that's leading by example. And then with the best practices, you also want to have those coming from your chapter, making sure that it's something that's done with your chapter and that's worked, but you can always go back to the drawing board too. So making sure that you are sharing those different resources, knowledge, experiences, and examples from your chapter. Okay, Patty.
All right, thanks, Ryan. So we're going to talk a little bit about why. And, a lot of times and we're going to do a little activity in a minute, or Ryan will do it with you in a minute, but, think about how you became when you became a chapter officer. Think about some of the things that you felt or wondered or questioned or, worried about sometimes, I'm sure, especially about time management and can you do this and what's the purpose and, how am I going to do this and what is this going to do for me? And a lot of times we just don't, we focus on the what and the how and the what and how, and we don't stop to think about, okay, starting with why, right? So I'm going to play this little video from Simon Sinek, who, when I served as an advisor, I used to use this at our first chapter meeting of the year with our new chapter officers. And I think it's really quick. It gives you a quick understanding of why we need to rethink some of our thoughts when we're getting ready to get involved in something or do something, whether it is to serve as a chapter officer or anything in life, or attending classes, or why you're going into this major and things of that nature. It's not so much focusing on the how and the what, but the why. And maybe you didn't start out your year as a chapter leader wondering or knowing your why, but you learned that as you went through. And we think it would be a really great gift that you could give the next chapter leadership team an understanding of starting with why. So we'll just play this real quick.
A lot of people don't realize that I actually hated reading for the majority of my life. By the time I was 18, I don't think I had really read a single book unless it was part of an assignment and I was just forced to do it. But ever since I went to first grade, my teachers constantly tried to inspire me to read, and it never worked. It just made me hate it even more. And then finally, when I was about 18 or so, I started to find mentors, most of them online, and they were able to inspire me to read almost instantly. And now I can't even imagine a life where I don't read. So what was the difference between my teachers, who tried to inspire me to read for 12 years and failed constantly, and my mentors who were able to do it in basically no time? Well, here it is in the context of the Golden Circle. My teacher started with the what. You have to read this classic. This is a great book. You have to. Then they sometimes went to the how and said, this is how you read it. But that was it. There was no why. The funny thing is, if I'd asked, Why should I read it? They would probably get angry and start yelling. How could you ask a stupid question like that? What do you mean, why should you read a classic? And that anger would mostly come from the fact that they haven't really thought about the why. So they can't really clearly articulate it. Most people, and even most organizations, don't really know why they do what they do. But how are my mentors different from my teachers at school? They had successful relationships, they had success in their businesses, and they said, look, do you want your girlfriend to be attracted to you? Do you want to build a successful business? Do you want to create powerful relationships instead of always getting your emails ignored just like everyone else? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And they were like, okay, good, then pick up a book. Oh, and by the way, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great book. So is The Way of the Superior Man. And I picked up both of those books and read them, and now reading is an inseparable part of my life. That is how great leaders inspire action. Everybody starts from the what, and most people never even get to the why. Most people create a product and they want to tell you about all the amazing features and specifications. They want to tell you about how these features work so well, but the truth is, most people don't care about your what and how. Most people don't want to be told the exact measurements of your CPU. They don't want to be told how the little chips interact with each other so amazingly. They want to be told something like this: we value efficiency just like you do. Here's how we can help you be more efficient. And here's a product that will help you achieve exactly that. And that's exactly what I want to buy. If you tell me my company's going to be more efficient, I want to know more. If you tell me how great your newest chip is, I don't really care. So again, most people start from the what and never even get to the why. You're not going to make that mistake. You're going to know your why, and you're going to start with it because you realize that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Okay, so in that message, one of the things that he said was, most organizations and groups don't know their why or what they're even trying to do. And that's not the case with Phi Theta Kappa, right? We know that everything we do is starts from the why of our mission statement and vision statements, right? So everyone, from the time that you receive your membership invitation, we share our mission and vision statement with you, and all throughout the course of your levels of engagement through our programming, what our vision and mission statements are. And each program within Phi Theta Kappa has a specific purpose or a why, right? And I think if we spend some time, and even if you're doing it reflecting on this past year when you get to meet with the new chapter officer teams, and you want to talk about, the why of the college project, not so much how you did it is important, but the why. What impact did it have on the college? What impact it had on the chapter? What impact it had on you as a leader and on your fellow students, right? You start with that, then they go into, okay, now we want to know how you did it, and the what and the how. But as you can see on the screen, the mission statement of Phi Theta Kappa, I've highlighted a couple things, and I believe these are some of the things that chapter leaders should always be able to ready explain to future members or future officers, that the purpose of the why of Phi Theta Kappa is to recognize academic achievement, provide opportunities, right? That falls under the roles of advisors and leaders of the chapter, right? You're there, your purpose is to provide those opportunities for members to engage, right, to get the most out of their membership benefits, and also to make a bigger impact on the community and for themselves, whether it's for them to have something to write on their scholarship applications or transfer applications, or all types of impact. And then, as you'll see, to grow as scholars and leaders, that's the purpose of one of the major purposes of why we do what we do, right? We want everyone to grow as a scholar and a leader in the organization. And then our vision, make the benefits of membership accessible to all. And that takes on a lot of different meetings. Off the top of my head, I can, definitely say every student of your college campus should be a member of Phi Theta Kappa. How can we make that accessible to them? How can your chapter make that accessible? How can we make getting what you do as a chapter, as far as chapter operations, accessible to all students? The students that work a full day and might take classes at night, how can they engage in your chapter and be a part of the why and the impact. So, you know, what I think would be a great idea for current chapter officers is to maybe at some point between now and whenever that transition happens to the next officer team, you know, to have some sort of, you know, a reflection point and where you can share your thoughts on what you felt your why and what your purpose was as the chapter officer and in the responsibilities that you had. So that when they're sitting there, they're going to be focusing, they'll hear more about the why and be more inspired by it, and not be sitting in this meeting and hearing, oh, we had to do this, and then there was this, and then there was rubrics, and then there was this, and then it was an induction, and then we had, and it just sounds like a whole lot of work, and it sounds like a whole lot of tasks, and that might not, you know, sit well with someone who wants to be a leader, right? Who wants to be a chapter officer. They want to make an impact. And of course, with any why, there is going to be a level of work and things to do, but you can always see the bigger picture, you know, at the end, you know, when you're finished that college project and you know, as a chapter, collectively as a chapter, what the purpose was and what the why was and what the benefits are from that whole piece, you must so much more proud to have participated, and it won't have seemed to be just idle work, right? Just because you're a PTK member or an officer. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan now, and she's going to have a little activity for you.
All right. So we started with the why, which leads to the how. So when we're doing that, you're sharing knowledge and experiences, and that's how. So look at this picture. We've all seen these students before, and some of you might know these students. I don't know. But we've seen students, and because it looks like an officer orientation, right? So recall your first day or meeting as a chapter officer and think back, what were some of the resources that were most important now that you wish you had in the beginning? So take a little bit, think about that. I'm going to also put it in the chat too. And then when you're thinking about that, when you were that chapter officer in the beginning at that first day or your meeting, were you like, do we have a manual that I can reflect back on, look over and say, hey, do I have this? Or how do I do this? Or if your chapter advisor isn't available, do you have something where you can go in and say, oh, that's how we do it? We as a chapter officer can't do that. That's the chapter advisor. Or we can do this as a chapter officer, you know, and that's kind of what that how-to manual or collection of resources, especially I know as a past advisor, I wanted my students, my members to have all the free resources that were available on campus. So making sure you have a collection of those resources. And then think about what experience could you share with a new chapter leader of what worked and what didn't as your year progressed. So if you want to take a quick, maybe like 2 minutes to think about some of the questions, and I put them in the chat so you can see too. But just think, reflect a little bit, and then Patty, do we want them to share out?
Yeah, we want to, if they could just, you know, let's go back to the first question. Recall your first day or a meeting as a chapter officer. How did you feel? You know, besides being excited, I mean, did, you know, when you sat down at that first meeting, what were your first impressions? Like, you know, were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you overwhelmed? Did you think, what did I get myself into? Come on, share in the chat with us. Any of those things? Oh, no. Okay.
And then after that, you can also share about some of the resources, again, that were most important now that you wish you had in the beginning. So when you're thinking back, like, oh, that would have really helped back in April when I was elected, or that makes sense now. I should have had that in the beginning if I just had known. And maybe that most important resource would have been the activity guide if you're not already using that activity guide for chapter leaders.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous. Thank you for sharing. I was definitely nervous and a bit overwhelmed because we were tasked with building our chapter back after COVID and virtual learning. And, that's one of the things that all of the chapter officers and all of the chapter members and advisors this year, it was a little different, right? The majority of all of you have not had meetings on campus or were able to share in what we consider the normal way, right? We have a new normal now, and it's figuring it out. And so you've taken this huge task on how to communicate through Zoom and create chapter planning and all that, and having that place and to be able to work and, not being able to meet. So yeah, I think the idea of how to have a notebook is a great way to bond together with members that officers and members could chime in on. Absolutely. Oh, that's great, Madeline. You found that your predecessors were very welcoming. That's key, right? It is key to be very welcoming and to make that connection and to know that they can reach out to you for support. I know as my chapter had a manual, we kept the basics in it, on how to, plan out the year. What were the events that always happened, regardless of what was going on. This is what the college wanted us to do, or, like welcome days and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that again in a minute. But, those routines, those things that the chapter normally does, putting them on the schedule and how to know how to take care of those things. Oh, that's great. Alpha Gamma Pi has a handbook that is updated each semester to include all of our leadership team with contact information. We also have all of our committees and the meetings for this, right? Planning the meetings out for the year. That's really good. Definitely. And you will see that it was helpful to have a passionate advisor. Absolutely. Your very first mentor as a chapter leader is your advisor, right? They have all of that knowledge, all of that why that they can share with you. They will, definitely support the chapter and help you be the type of officer that you wanted to do. We have two very hands-on, Mary Coles and Dr. Rees. They are the best. Well, a lot of kudos for the advisors today. Yay. Awesome.
And then there was one other comment I don't think we got to, but Courtney had said it was her first time working as a team. So she was very excited and nervous about how to be a good team member. And that's okay, because it is exciting, but you're in front of a group, you don't know them, you haven't meshed well together because you don't know each other. So trying to learn each other's leadership styles and how to work well with each other's leadership styles. Sometimes you have two alphas, but you have to learn how to work with both of them, and that's okay. So thank you all for sharing too.
Nice. And then best practices, right? Being a mentor, that is everybody needs a mentor on every stage, and no matter what you're doing, and even if it's multiple things, right? Mentors, number one mentor at your chapter is your advisor, right? And then you as chapter officers to the next leadership team will also be mentors, right? Student to student mentors. You'll have the opportunity to assist those new leaders on establishing meaningful goals to create a positive impact on the college, the chapter, the campus, right? And you're going to start out with why. Why is this important, right? Why do you want to do this? Let's help you come up with a why statement. Like, why are we going to do this as a team, working together? Share your knowledge of everything. I'm going to be really honest, right? Sometimes, we can all be honest about it. Sometimes we go to PTK.org and we got a little lost there, right? We can't find some things and we thought it was over here and it was over here. And by the end of the year, most of the time, our chapter leaders, they know where to find stuff. And so that could be a session in and of itself, right? Logging onto ptk.org and having it up on a big screen and sharing where all of the resources are, kind of do a little roadmap. This is where you find the, information for 5-star chapter development. This is where you find the PTK Edge programs. This is where you find leadership development. Just giving that it goes a long way in helping officers and new officers and members navigate, right? And also the resources on campus, right? And your chapter may do things that no other chapter does, as far as operations are concerned, knowing what those are and where to find them, how to best utilize them, right? If, you say you're a new chapter, that in order to put a flyer out on campus, you have to go through the marketing department. Well, you would know that because you've been through that, share those steps with the new officers on how to get those flyers through the marketing department or on billboards and things of that nature, guide them through all those processes. The do's and don'ts, we talked a little bit. There are do's and don'ts, right, in chapter operations. I'm sure one of the big don'ts is you don't go straight to the college president's store and request a meeting, right? There's a process for that. And a lot of those do's and don'ts, I would, definitely work with the advisor, right? You have to work with your advisor to know those things. You can't say, we're going to have an event on such and such a day, and it doesn't get cleared through the college's personnel or events at the college. So those are the things that you'll want to share with the new team that you already know of, those do's and don'ts. And I think huge too is the whole communication. How did you communicate as officers? Was it through texting or Slack or GroupMe or any of those things? Was it strictly through email? Was it through, setting up a Microsoft Team or a Google Drive? Share what you did and maybe what you thought would have been better because it didn't quite work, or maybe there was multiple modes of the way of communicating. A lot of chapters will have chapter officer meetings and then they'll have general membership meetings. So there's a lot of information that you want to keep up on and who's responsible for and setting agendas and things of that nature. So how will the chapter leadership communicate, and then also communicate with the advisor, because the advisor is a key point person in the communication part of your chapter operations. And planning, I can't emphasize planning enough, right? Here we are, it's March. I don't know about any of you, yesterday felt like it was the new year, and we're almost to the third month of this year, and that leaves us like 9 months, and between now and the end of May, there's graduations and inductions and recruitments and all of this. And then somewhere along the line, we're concern ourselves with making sure there's a transition to a new chapter officer team whenever your chapter does that. It could be, now, it could be in the summer, it's, whenever it's best for your team. But planning is really crucial. And we'll have I'll show you a little activity that you can find in the activity guide for leaders that it's 3 steps, right? And planning is part of it. And planning is just taking that calendar and, plopping them in certain months where they normally would go, and then being, disciplined enough to say, okay, we are going to work on our college project during this semester, these months during this semester, and honors in action will start in the summer and we'll implement it in the fall. And we know we have scholarship applications that are due, and we want to provide workshops on completing those scholarship applications. So any of those activities that your chapter wants to do, definitely the key is planning, and in order to have all of those people's pieces in place, and that you have the big picture of what the chapter intends on doing. Social media is a big part of Phi Theta Kappa chapters, right? Chapters have social media presence, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now, and Facebook, and making sure that, if officers are in charge of those or have the, the administrative levels on those social media platforms, that it's shared with the incoming team, and also sharing with, if it's tied to the college's account, the do's and don'ts with that. When is it a good time to post? What things do we post? What things do we not post, right? So social media is huge. It's also part of increasing awareness of Phi Theta Kappa on your college campus through your social media. And then also events, what are those events we talked a little bit about before? Like if your chapter historically has been the chapter that always plans the blood drive, right? You are it has never changed. It never will change, getting the information for those events that you will need to participate in, right? Because it's still building a relationship with the college's administration, because they count on your chapter to be able to do those things, working the pantries and food drives and things of those nature, right? Making sure all those events are taken care of. And then there's those awareness events that you want to do, right, to make Phi Theta Kappa more, increase awareness on campus, right? What does that look like? Who's going to staff those tables? Having an understanding of who's available and who'd be able to be out there and setting it up. So those are all those things that I think that you've all been through that you can share with the incoming team that would make things a little bit easier for them, and they'll have an understanding about it. They still might need some more follow-up, but at least you could share that information with them. So leading by example. And I also think too, in all of these things, it's really good, like saying, well, we held an awareness event, and it was at, on campus, and it was between the hours of 2 and 3, but classes ended at 1 and nobody was around. So we advise you not to do it during those times, like do it early or whatever. So provide that advice so that they're not having to figure it out for themselves, right? And then resources, right? I can't these are the two best resources for chapter leaders, right? It's the activity guide for chapter leaders. Sometimes it's not as well known as I'd like it to be, but it's that guide that breaks down almost every important activity in the chapter's operations, from inductions to setting goals. And there's all kinds of examples on how you can be inclusive in getting everybody's opinion and how to set those goals and what to look at, and how to move forward with certain things, how to do awareness campaigns and things of that. So it's that guide that you can take and read it, and you go, well, that particular activity might not work, but if we tweaked it a little bit like this, it would work for us. And so it's modifiable. You definitely can modify it to your needs. It's not like it's written in gold, stone, and that you can't change it. But it's that piece, that resource that gives chapter leaders and members and advisors an opportunity to take a look and not have to reinvent the wheel, right? It's there. And it's also it's closely tied to the 5-star chapter plan. And we're going to take a look at that in a second. But I think a best practice for current chapter officers and leaders is to, review the guide during officer transition or orientation with the new officers, discuss which activities from the guide were helpful and any of the modifications that you may have made. In the guide, there's like I said, it ties closely with the 5-star chapter plan, and we all know what that is, right? The purpose of the 5-star plan is a guide to increase chapter engagement, right? You can be at any level, anywhere from 1 to 5. We want everybody to be a 5-star chapter, and we believe that it's doable, right? But you have to use the guide to be able to, as a framework, to be able to get to that, right? Chapter engagement with an emphasis on member recruitment, organizing chapter leadership, getting involved in your Phi Theta Kappa region, right? I hope all of you know region your chapter belongs to, and then also participating at the international level. So there's, a very strong why to the 5-star chapter plan, right? It tells us what the purpose is and why it really is key in building a strong and engaged chapter. And what happens there when we build strong and engaged chapters, we build really great relationships with the college administration. Give our members more opportunities to engage, and in that engagement, they can, engage in professional development and all sorts of things, and scholarly activities and all of that. So as you can see, you need that 5-star, you need to spend a little time with the 5-star chapter plan, and how you all worked through it this year, the good and the bad, and share it with the incoming team, right? There's an activity on page 5 of the activity guide for chapter leaders. It's it's a 30-minute activity. Even if you couldn't have like a full transition period at some point soon, this is a really great activity that you can do with incoming, or even those who are thinking about being an officer, right? Identify key activities for an active chapter, taking a look at the 5-star plan and saying, okay, what are those key activities that we're going to definitely need to do, plus the ones that we normally do? What are those things? Let's identify them now. Let's get them on a chart. Let's get them in our plan, right? Can we plan on these activities for the year? And then setting a chapter goal for the 5-star chapter plan. Like I said earlier, we want all of our chapters to be 5-star chapters, and we believe that it's doable. And I always say, start high, right? Aim high. Everybody just set the bar high. And I know at my chapter, it was always a best practice or an expectation that the current team set the goal, whether they were able to do it on the system or not, but left a note for the incoming team. We are setting your chapter goal to be a 5-star chapter because that's what we were able to achieve, and we know that you're able to do it. We want to leave that legacy of a strong, engaged chapter with you, and so we are expecting you to meet that expectation. So, and then looking again, implementing those activities to achieve the goal and receiving the recognition. The 5-star chapter plan is about recognition, and it feels good to be a 5-star chapter and a 4-star chapter and a 3. It does, but it is about recognition, and it's also the key that the map that leads you to the competitive side of Phi Theta Kappa, the hallmarks. You all know that, the hallmarks, the Hallmark Awards, College Project, Honors in Action, and so and then individual recognition as well through the hallmark. So it's that plan that you need to share the ins and outs and what you've learned from it and how it benefited your chapter this year in 2021, and how they can engage in this for 2022. So really briefly, we're going to go through the levels, and I know as chapter leaders and regional officers that are here, there's the 5 levels, right? And each level has a purpose, right? So level 1 is all about recognizing academic excellence and building chapter foundations, right? That is, your advisor uploading those files for eligibility. It's having those membership acceptance campaigns, that are going on, that go on in the spring, the summer, and the fall during the enrollment periods. Talking about having orientations. Maybe there's something that you can assist with in an orientation for that. And the other 2 things are just things that submitting annual reports and all that's advisor stuff to do, and checking those bylaws, right? And so at any time, and these are important people that you'll want to share with your incoming chapter officers. They're divisional membership services specialists, right? They know all of the stuff about membership and can answer any kind of questions and provide support to the advisor and to the chapter. So level 1, it's all about recognizing academic excellence. Ryan?
So then we move on to level 2, and that's about organizing chapter leadership and engaging members. So again, Patty talked about setting that goal, setting it high. Even if you're like, oh, I don't know how to do this. If you set that goal high, you already have it set. And then you're like, oh, we can achieve that. Looking at level 1, you're like, oh, our advisor has that. That's their deal. Level 2, you're like, we can go in there and click set a goal to achieve higher than 1-star goal status, and then organizing at least 2 membership recruitment campaigns. And so what does that mean? If you have a club fair, if you just want to have an awareness campaign where you're like, we can sit out here and talk to people about Phi Theta Kappa, that's one of them. Doing, like I said, club fairs, tabling during PTK Awareness Week, those can count as your membership recruitment campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
And then making sure you're reporting new officers to headquarters. That is so important, because new officers are important so they can get the information too, and they're getting credit for being an officer. That goes on to their profile that they were a Phi Theta Kappa chapter officer. So you want to make sure you do that. And then reporting those new officers, you can provide an officer orientation late spring or early summer. And then again, like Patty said, discuss and set the goal with your current and new officer team.
Mhm. Thanks. The 3-star level or level 3 is all about regional engagement, right? And you know what regions you are from, right? And who your regional coordinators are. Your newer chapter officers and leaders may not know that, but make it something that you do, that you connect them to the region, right? How do they get connected on their social media? How can they find information about the region? It's very important, because every region has events, right? A lot of them have been over the last 2 years virtual, or there's a virtual option. Knowing when those are, you as a chapter, they as a chapter officer should know the dates of those events when they are out, so they can plan to attend those events, right? Maybe the region, and you'll want to also connect with the region, because a lot of regions will do regional projects, and you'll want to be able to engage in that because it's part of the plan, right? So getting connected with the regional team is really easy. When you get this PowerPoint, you'll be able to connect with all of the regions and see who to connect with. And your regional officers, I know there's quite a few on today, your regional officers want to connect with chapter leadership, right? Because together, strong chapters make a strong region. I say that over and over again. Strong chapters make a strong region, right? So they need you to be up and running and going and making those connections, because when we get a whole bunch of chapters in a region that are participating in the 5-star chapter plan, it makes it very easy for a region to be recognized as a 5-star region. So that's what we all want. So it's really important to get in touch, get connected, and that you share that with the new officers, that they get connected to the regions.
So now with level 4, it's all about developing that college project and building administrative support. So you want to go in and you want to click implement a college project. So this project is designed to strengthen the chapter's relationship with your college administrator through any project that college that supports your college vision and mission. We'll put the link into the chat, but then after you do that, you're going to want to implement it, you plan it, and then it's time to put it into action. It's time to do that part of the project on your campus once you've worked with your administration, and then you're going to enter it, and everybody should know right now, and if you don't know, you'll enter it in as a Hallmark Award, and so you'll submit that, and then headquarters will actually count that as submitting regional awards, or the chapter may enter an award competition offered exclusively by their region. So, it depends on your region, but it will count once you submit it as a Hallmark Award. So that's what we're going through right now. Everybody has submitted it, we're judging, we're getting ready, so you can be celebrated through your region and possibly be celebrated on the international level. So college project planning, in the perfect world, you would want to start planning it in the spring semester. And then you definitely want to schedule that meeting with your college administrator. So if you're able to meet with your college president, yes. If not, anyone that they have designated to meet with you that's on the college administration level. And then you want to set objectives and gather resources and make sure you're working and collaborating with others. So that could be your library, that could be your student government, that could be a different department on campus. You just want to make sure, or other clubs too, you just want to make sure that you're collaborating with others. And then, again, in a perfect world, implement that college project in the fall semester. But you also have to do it what works for you. But you want to make sure you have all of that done before it's due to submit in Hallmarks in January.
If for everybody that's here, for anybody that had the experience this past year, and for some chapters it works, that the end of the year or the fall semester, they do everything, college project, honors in action. It can be a little stressful, but maybe it works. What we're considering as a best practice is trying to stretch those across the length of the year, right? And what's really good is if you're going to start with college project, you as the current leadership team at the chapter can just have planning meetings with the incoming team and talk about what the college project was that you last did, what were the what was the impact, what they would have done differently, what could that college project, what could be developed upon more on that college project, right? So it's an opportunity for both teams to work together in starting the talks or starting the beginnings of a college project. And maybe it is about meeting with the college president, a member from the current team, and then the new team to have those conversations. And last but not least, our fifth level, right? Developing an honors in action project and getting involved at the international level. So honors in action, right? It's based on the current honor study topic. We're going to get a new one in a couple days, right? We're so excited for it. We'll be seeing it soon. And it also talks about, some other things that you will need to do attending an international event, and all of those things all go towards your planning of what you're going to do for the year, right? And for me, in my past, and I think for Ryan and a few others, they usually really focus on honors in action as something that they start in the early summer, with resources and learning and engaging. And I think what's really one of the most important things that you need to do is, if your chapter has completed an honors in action, it would be really good that you share your experiences with the team, right? How you went about it. How did you, get resources or collaborators? Where did you go for your scholarly articles? How did you sit down and decide by looking at the guide what theme you're going to do? What was that whole process? Because there's nothing, I think, and I was talking to Ryan about this earlier, I would go into meetings with chapter officers with the guide, and I'll say, okay, everybody read the guide, and then we'll figure, come back next week and we'll talk about it. And everybody came back next week and we didn't get any further than we were the first week, and it was dragging it out. So if you have a process that worked really well on selecting the theme and the focus question, you want to share that with the incoming team so they don't have to figure it out. I just think that's a best practice for chapters. Always, if you have any questions, Ryan and I are here to support all of the chapters. And so Ryan covers division 3 and 4. I cover all the chapters in divisions 1 and 2. Always feel free to reach out to us, email us. We are more than willing to set up some time with your advisors, with your teams. If you would like some more information on how to set up an orientation for incoming officers, or how to leave your legacy, or anything that we talked about today, please let us know. And before I turn it over to see if we had any questions that we need to answer, we are proud to announce our next sessions that will be held in March for advisors. It'll be on March 9th at 3 p.m. And then for chapter advisors and leaders, it will be on March 23rd. The session for advisors is going to focus around using PTK Edge, the leadership development series studies, and the 5-star chapter advisor curriculum as professional development for your chapter members and officers. And then we will take a deep dive into the PTK Edge programs on March 23rd, and how officers and members can share the why these professional development courses are so important and beneficial to students in moving forward. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Take a deep breath and see what do we have. Hi, Blake. Okay, did we get all the questions? Do we have any other questions?
So far, so good. I think all of the questions were answered in the chat, but if anybody else has any questions,
okay,
you're definitely welcome to ask them now.
Okay.
Patty, can I say hey?
Yes, I'm done. I need to get a sip of water anyway. Go ahead.
Oh, good. You gotta get that sip of water. I know it's an hour later over in Jersey than here in the great state of Texas. Hey everyone, just wanted to jump on and say hey. Our Chief Engagement Officer working with our student engagement team, and we're just all here to support y'all, to help you in everything that you work through with your chapter. I always say that I know at PTK we are a lot, okay, because there's scholarships, there's professional development, there's leadership, honors programming, college project, chapter officers, awards, all of it. It is not so important that you do every single thing. It's important that you find the areas in which you can make the most difference and that serve your chapters the best. I hear from chapters sometimes that are especially transfer oriented. They're on PTK Connect, finding universities. They're working through Transfer Edge, and they are applying for scholarships. I sometimes talk to chapters that are very focused on getting students straight into the workforce. They're looking at Employment Edge and applying for scholarships that are focused on getting into the workforce. So we have all kinds of things to offer. I do want to make one small-ish, maybe big pitch. And I want to say that we are, for the first time in 3 years, going to be back in person at PTK Catalyst. And so I know for those of you maybe that are newcomers and are, kind of figuring it out, it's important for us to realize that Phi Theta Kappa's convention, you may not have been to one. You may be saying, I don't know what this is and I haven't heard of it. I'm going to tell you that we are known within the higher education community for putting on the best conventions. And I think all of our wonderful partners will tell you that if you want high energy, if you want high impact learning experiences, Phi Theta Kappa Catalyst, our annual convention, is really where you come. So we are overwhelmed, especially today, because it was, the first early bird deadline, overwhelmed with all the people that are registering to come. And it's clear we are going to have a really event. I know that things are moving quickly and that everybody is kind of in a different place, with the events. But if you feel that by April, you're going to be wanting to be around folks and you're going to be wanting to kind of be in an ed forum, if you're going to want to engage with our networking and hear some of our speakers, just want to encourage you to start thinking now about how you can get there, because you may have to advocate, you may have to talk to some folks at your administration, but we are going to have fun. You're going to end up in April not wanting to miss this convention. And if you're there, we are excited to see y'all. So just wanted to give my little Catalyst plug. So I want to see, there was one question about when do students get notified if they were nominated for the All-State Academic Team. So nominations are by colleges. And so usually the college will notify a student if they have been nominated. If not, you can ask your chapter advisor, college administration to find out if you've been nominated. But also the winners of those, I think, will be announced sometime in March, and we'll be really excited to celebrate them, as we always do at the American Association of Community Colleges annual event, which is a reminder for me to just remind you that we are the official honor society for the American Association of Community Colleges, as we have been for many, many years. We do student learning, we do honors programs, we do recognition, and we also have a lot of fun. So really thanks to all of y'all for taking your time to be here this afternoon. I'm double checking just to make sure that all the questions are getting answered. I see some comments. Patty, if I'm missing a question, will you throw it out there? Oh, I see Barbara on there. Barbara, my dear friend from California, we believe that we are related by way of Ellis Island from relatives way back. So say hi to the Ellises out in California. Patty, did I miss any questions?
No, but I see an idea for maybe another session. They're looking for fundraiser ideas. So
That's a very important thing. Every chapter is different, and we know that in the community college space, none of us have unlimited funds. We're a nonprofit, always trying to kind of piece things together as best we can. You're absolutely right about that. It's important, and I always remind folks about this. If you see something, there's a hand raised. If you have a question, if you'll just put that in the chat, so we can answer it. Yeah, and Mary says notified of Texas Academic Team. Yeah, that's right. Texas gets going on that. And always fun to get together, usually in Austin, sometimes in other places to celebrate. But yes, that's right. We want to make sure we're all trying to do the best that we can in terms of funding, but we should definitely have, I think, conversations with you and collaborations to see how we can get to as many events as possible, because we know they are transformative for the people who attend them. And golf tournament, yeah, some comments. And also that's right, Patty and Ryan can always meet with you to kind of walk through some fundraising ideas. I gotta give Patty and Ryan a shout out, because I always get kind of positive feedback that trickles up, or really trickles down to me, because I'm down here at the bottom, trickles down. And it really, when Patty and Ryan get to talk with advisors one-on-one, there's a lot of brainstorming that happens there because both of these women are former chapter advisors and regional coordinators. So they've seen it on both sides, from trying to run an event and get people to it, but also from trying to get your chapter to do that. And as Mary Linder, my wonderful friend who just had a birthday yesterday, happy birthday, says, Patty and Ryan are absolute rock stars, and they're here to support your chapters on any day, except for the days they take off, and then they need to just be off. So. And I see a question, one more question I want to answer before we close out. How do we work around the community? It's been difficult. You know, that's a great question. And for that one, I'm not as in-depth knowledgeable about this, the nuances of our scholarships. Scholarships at ptk.org. They can give you a quick answer. Also, the head of that department right now is Heather Johnson, heather.johnson at ptk.org. They can maybe give you some ideas on how you can find some creative ways to fill those out for the scholarships. Really good questions. All right, Patty, I'm turning it over to you to close out, and I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay, well, thank you, Blake. I don't know, did Susan Reagan or anybody, my other colleagues, have anything they wanted to add to today? Give them an opportunity. We good? Well, we hope you enjoyed today's session, and we appreciate your leadership this past year, and we know you're going to leave your chapter better than you found it by walking with the next leadership team with your chapter. So we'll see you during our next sessions, and please feel free to contact us if you need anything. Have a good day, everybody.